What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome back to our Friday Live Day sessions where we go live talking about cameras and hashtag things. My name is Diana Gladden, your hostess with the mostess, and here on Entree Woman TV, I hope you simplify the video creation process so that you can reach wider and connect deeper with the people that need you the most. So whether that is more of like, we'll be talking a little bit about cameras and stuff like that tonight, having a little bit of fun, or some video marketing tips and things like that also on the channel. If that's something that you're into, definitely consider subscribing. However, tonight we are nothing but talking about gear stuff, and I am so pumped and excited. Alex Miner is put me on blast that you were supposed to call me. my bad, bro. Hey, hit me up on Instagram real quick. I might bring you in through Skype, and we'll see how that rolls if my computer can breathe and do the same thing. So hit me up on and we'll see if Skype works. So my bad. However, we're here now. We're here. So today I want to talk about how the new Canon R5 has Canon turned over a new leaf. If I was not trying to deal with the whole copyright infringement, we would have kicked this off like it was a party, listening to the song Return of the Mac, because that is the kind of spirit and feeling that this new camera gives me. And I have plenty of my camera buddies ask me, like, are you coming back home? And it's just like, no, I moved out for good. I did not leave a bookshelf to come back to, or a drawer with a few socks just to have something in the house. No, I packed everything and left. So, but it does give me some insights into not just like, because sometimes everybody looks at like what the camera that comes out, and like they'll say like, oh, well, that's too much, or that's more than what I want. So it's just like, that's not going to work for me, or something like that. But the thing is, it's like, it kind of don't matter, because it's like, you have to think a new bar is being set. Canon hasn't done anything like this since 10 years ago when the 5D Mark II came out. And then at another lower price level, because what was important was you had the 5D Mark II. So let's do a little backup just for a smidge. 5D Mark II came out, and we went from having like film cameras to digital cameras, and now these digital cameras now have video all of a sudden. And so it became like, oh, you don't have to use like little tape recorders and this, that, or whatever. Like, you can, it's a digital version of video. Seems simple now with phones and all this extra other stuff, but it's just like, now it's a big deal, but then it was a really big deal. So it's like Canon kicked this whole thing off. So the fact that they have sucked in video for the longest of time, like, and just like everybody else, is just like being a part. It's like, now you say what you want to, but I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and at least the Cubs, I'll say, give some competition to the Cardinals. But if you look at something like football, now granted, the Rams sucked for a long time and I could not ride with them. So I just literally didn't have a team, and now they go away and they all that, but that's neither here nor there. But you look at something like my old supervisor used to love the Browns. And it's just like, or not the Browns, or the Bears, or what is it? Somebody tell me. It's like I don't know. I think it's like the Bears. Is that the football team? I'm not all that well versed. I like college ball better, but it sucked, and it's just like, and his team is constantly losing. And it's just like, you love this team and they consistently suck. And that's kind of how it has been for Canon. And so you want your team to win, but it's just like every camera, every time, all this, it's just like constantly sucking and constantly always lackluster. And it's just like, it gets to be frustrating trying to get that camera. And it's just like, for the company that started and kicked off video, it's baffling that they have sucked for so long with video. I don't care like how ease of use, all that stuff is like, we should not be thanking camera companies or brands in general for doing basics. Or it's just like, well, thanks for putting it in English, or thanks for putting it in Spanish. It's just like, that's default stuff. So Canon did the best of the best, like adding it in a digitized form. And then, they kept amping it up. And then you had for if you look back on YouTube, even a couple years, 3-4 years ago, DSLR revolution, Canon was the go-to brand. And then you had Panasonic that was stumping in, and they came out with the first mirrorless cameras. So fast forward now, it's been only like Sony, Panasonic innovating, Fuji innovating on certain things. And so like everybody's kind of wondering what's Canon going to do. And we thought 2 years ago when they came out with the Canon EOS R, it would be something worth looking at. And it was the biggest disappointment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so what I'm going to do today, I have a couple slides, like 5 or 6, just for those that are new or you're new to cameras, or just to bring everybody up to speed with the progression of, for my audience and for cameras that I would talk about, like, or ones that I would have looked at to put my money back of, even like not necessarily for I guess like if the R or the RP was good enough, yeah, I'd maybe use those for business, but it's just like things that I would use for my personal, and then something I maybe would consider for business use. And I mean business use, like for video production work. So if you're not familiar, we'll jump into that. So let's jump into the comments. So Francis saying, hey, what's going on? Good to see you, Francis. Henry saying, Return of the Mac is my favorite song. If you can't boogie to Return of the Mac, I can't trust you. You know, I need to see a hip wiggle, a knee pop, or something when Return of the Mac comes on for everybody. You don't even have to speak English. I expect that beat, and that is just good music. Okay, as soon as this quarantine break, I've decided, I posted on Facebook, we're doing as a pillar of the community, I said that we are doing immediate Thanksgiving dinner. That's the first song on the playlist, Return of the Mac. So Joshua Burris, his lap says, Canon has sucked at video. They have. It just it's baffling. It's the Browns. Okay, it's the Browns. Yeah, so Henry saying and Joshua saying it's the Browns. Yeah. The football team sucked. Like, they always would lose. And every year, it's just like when I worked at the bank. And it's just like every apparel, and it's just like I'm raising my kids to love the Browns. It's just like you're raising them to love a losing team that is like never getting better. And that's how I felt for Canon, to the point everybody was like wondering, like, they might, like, are y'all gonna go out of business? Like, but you need competition in the market to push things, because we're seeing now with Sony, it's just like they've been chilling out for too long. And it's just like for Sony shooters, like, I'm not loyal to any one brand. I'm loyal to who's loyal to us, because that's where my dollar is going to go, which is why I even looked at Sony to begin with. Because if you go back a few videos or a few live streams or whatever, when I was on the Canon 50, I was on the Canon 50 hard. When I was for Canon, I was on Canon hard. When I was with Panasonic, I was with Panasonic hard. Panasonic won't fix your autofocus, bye. Canon, you won't do anything, bye. You know, just like I guess you'll call that the millennial spirit. It's like I put my dollars with those that add value to us as well. Again, I teach the them first, serve them first premise. I expect to be served when I'm in a consumer standpoint. So Joshua was saying, until they remove the record limit, they still suck. So so I'm gonna go through some of the specs for some of the other cameras, like I said, some of the latest releases that they have had, and we'll break that down. So I'm gonna run through the comments, finish going through the comments. So Doc Rock, good to see you, saying this is because when cameras started doing video, the companies that made TVs killed the camera game, Sony and Panasonic. Well, you know, it's like the interesting thing is like, so most people don't know like how much I enjoy gaming. And like I used to be like all in, waiting in lines, and like that was my thing when I was in high school. Like I got accepted into my first college when I was a junior in high school for it was like a development school, not or whatever. I think it's like the University of Advancing Technology or something like that. I had got in because I was studying like technical stuff to get into video games. Like I wanted to be a video game developer, so I was all into like E3, like the whole nine. So looking at where media was transitioning, I never looked at cameras. I didn't care. But you look at those video processing units and things like that, it really was no real reason for, you know, Canon not to do it other than lackluster and laziness. But, you know, it's talking about TV, the companies that made TVs, they killed the camera game. And it's just like, well, you had access to kind of the same technology. You got to think Canon is into the medical field and stuff. Like if you could zoom into a cell or zoom into medical stuff, you know, it's just like for what we're doing, and you're already really do the basics well, it's not no excuse other than just pure laziness. And if y'all don't know, I'm pretty straight up and bare, but I don't care about no brand's feelings. It's just like, I support you if you support us, meaning the creators, the entrepreneurs, because that's what you're asking for, our dollars. So, I have my opinions on that, so I tend to be a little bit different in my approach. Adam's Exploits, good to see you, Adam, saying Diana is back. Indeed, I am. Saying Francis is laughing about return on the Mac, 100%. Appreciate that. Adam saying the Eagles are nuts this year also. I guess we're talking about football. So I haven't been keeping up with the sports, but I guess ain't no sports happening now. We all indoors. So Adam saying I'm having trouble connecting my M50 with the Camlink 4K. Plus I have lag even with Sparkle Cam. I had to come to like tech stuff on the back of that. I'm not sure. We'll have to talk about this. You can add some more details in the chat of what's going on. And I'm guessing with Sparkle Cam, you're a PC user, but we'll come back to that. Throw some more details in the chat and I'll come around to it. So I guess it's about recording limits. But just so you know, so everybody wants to, well, you know what? I'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and jump into what I wanted to hit on. It's just a couple slides about the details of the camera. And like, it's not about the R5 only and how great that is. And I am going to hit on the specs and what those means, and then what those mean for us as creators and entrepreneurs, and what that will mean for like the video market. But let's kind of like look at where stuff has been. Oop, not there. Where stuff has been when it comes to Canon. So I talked about this before, but I wanted to kind of, what is it, a compilation of all of the things that I've talked about regarding the camera stuff. So one of the last cameras that Canon came out, or honestly, I think one of the first budget-friendly, prosumer-like kind of a camera was the SL3. And what happened with the Canon SL3 was, it's just you had the SL1, SL2, which is just like, the SL2 was okay, but Canon duplicates cameras for no reasons. Like the SL2 was already a fine HD camera, but beyond the Canon M6, the original Canon M6 that did all the same things that the SL2 did, it just had a different screen and it was a DSLR. So Canon makes dumb cameras all the time, and the SL3 honestly was one of those. But I wanted to compare the M50's specs to the SL3 because at the time everybody was kind of wondering, is it worth it? So both of them had 4K video with time lapse. So that was something that was new when you looked at Canon and like the prosumer base level cameras. They both had a crop in 4K video, so it was nothing like where you would get an advantage of one versus the other, like one didn't crop or one did or whatever. They both did. So 1080p, 60 frames per second and 30 frames per second. So your base, so none of them had like 1080p 120 frames per second. And honestly, the 120 frames per second in the M50 is kind of trash. So it's like, it's usable. You can pull it. It's pull offable. I put it that way. It's kind of like, it's doable, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, thanks. It was just like a kind of kick in the pants a little bit there. With both cameras, you had access to the EF as well as the EF lenses. On any of Canon's like DSLRs, you don't need an adapter to go from the full frame glass to the crop sensor glass. Full frame glass is the EF, crop sensor glass is EFS. So you could just literally pop on the whatever you wanted on the like the SL3, SL2, 70D, all that stuff. But you needed an adapter since it's a different mount for the M50, but you could realistically and very simply adapt the lenses. So that was cool. Both had a mic jack because the M100 lineup of cameras, the M100, the M200, those suck because they didn't have a microphone jack. So again, it's just like Canon was dumbing down cameras and just making extra ones and wasting money, in my opinion, for dumb stuff. And you may say like, oh, well, different products for different people, but it's, yeah, at some point, I don't need 27 versions of the same white shoe. And you're like, well, this shoelace ties a little bit different, or we didn't use plastic, we used rubber on, just like, shut up. So it was that kind of a thing. So both were lightweight, both APS sensor, APS-C sensor size, small form factor, things like that, similar battery performance, with it same or similar sensor size for the 24 megapixels, which is about standard for that, and both around about the same price point at $650. And then when we looked at the negative side of things, like what was really wrong with the SL3 as to why it was like, in my opinion, a dumb camera, it had no focus peaking. So the next video to come out on the channel is about how to manually focus on yourself when you're live streaming. So if you're using the HDMI, which that video honestly should have came out last week, but I'm scratching what I recorded so I could redo it and explain a couple concepts a little bit easier than what I originally did. So that's not going to come out till next week. But it had no focus peaking, and focus peaking gives you dots around yourself so that you can be able to identify when those dots show up, what's actually in focus and what's not. The SL3 didn't have that. It's a little bit heavier than the M50, not that big of a deal though, but it had a worse 4K video crop. So I talked about in my last video that I did, and I was explaining like sensor sizes and things like that, and I had, you know, Cantus sending the video in. I talked and I explained like the crop factor. Okay, we know there is a 1.6 crop factor for any of the Canon cameras. There's also a crop factor. Again, that's why it's an APS-C. It's a crop sensor camera. So the Sony A6400, for example, has a 1.5 times crop. And again, I explained that, so I don't want to dive into it. However, it gets worse when you turn your Canon M50 on 4K. You notice it just zooms in, even if you haven't moved or the camera's on a tripod, from when you turn it in 1080p mode to 4K video mode. So that crop was worse on the SL3 for whatever reason than it was on the M50, which was, again, a stupid move for no reason. And now where we have access to Canon's dual pixel autofocus, because it wasn't until 2017 that Canon started to regularly add dual pixel autofocus. So that same game of we'll give you this, we won't give you that kind of a deal was what we were experiencing up until the M6 and the T7i came out in 2017, and we had the dual pixel autofocus. But instead of like however many hundred the M50 has, the SL3 had 9, because it's like, I don't even want to get into it, but it just had 9. It still had dual pixel autofocus in video, so it worked fine. But it's just a matter like y'all just being silly with how you're doing things, because it's like, even if other company brands that were doing DSLRs, they weren't sucking that bad. So the SL3 was a dumb camera. And then furthermore, as to why it was stupid, it was because it had some positive video specs that some of the latest cameras still didn't have. Like, so you had the larger battery that was different than the, I want to say the M50 takes, is it the, I'm trying to think, my M50's behind me on the bookshelf, but some of the Canon cameras take an LPE 17, like the Canon M6. I believe the M50 takes the LPE 12, which is a smaller battery. So it had a larger battery than the SL3. You had external recording modes. Now, for those that, again, that are new, 422 10-bit is a higher, it's like, versus, in the basic terms, because I don't want to get too deep in any of these things. If somebody gave you 3 crayons to color a picture, you probably could do all right. But if somebody gave you 32 colors to color with a picture, you do even better, because you now have a broader spectrum for color. So when we look at, 422 8-bit or 420 8-bit, it's just more colors or more color depth type of a thing. So for people that color grade images, the images aren't falling apart. So it's like, but it wasn't like any of that stuff. It's just the fact that it was stupid to add it to this camera that is supposed to be under the M50 or somewhere in this, or just laterally, like in the same level as the M50, but you're adding stuff that regular cameras didn't have. And it's just like, well, who are you making this for? Because they left a bunch of features out, didn't put a sync port for like the flash that goes in it. Like, it was a bunch of things for anybody, photography or videography wise, that could use this camera is stupid. It's just like, so it made no sense. Like, anybody that's doing video needs not auto peaking, but focus peaking. But then you have cameras like, it was getting ridiculous. So anyway, USB Type-C updated port that worked, that was awesome, 4K at 24 frames per second, which we all know Canon had an issue with 24 frames per second all of a sudden for some reason. And then you had 1080p 60 frames per second as well. And so, like I said, it had some good things going for it, but at the same time, it's just like, I'll give you, you know, a cheeseburger inside of a trash bag. It's just kind of a deal. So it's just like, you were really hungry, you get this cheeseburger. But then we move on to the Canon RP. Canon RP had some cool things going for it. I was really hoping that after the Canon EOS R, which I'm not going to cover, I was really hoping that it would be a nice sub $2,000 camera that maybe would do some things different than the R would. It's like, because I don't know who specifically they were making the R for. I just think it was what they would call a stopgap camera, so that you don't have people that were so many people leave. You know, you have give them some kind of a mirrorless full frame camera. But then again, you still had stuff like 720p, 120 frames per second. So the camera we thought Canon would drop as their first mirrorless camera sucked. So this RP, when it came out, had some great things going for it. You had 4K capable camera, still 1080p 60, so we still weren't seeing the 120 frames per second. We did have USB-C, which was cool. We also had a headphone jack, which was cool. Clean HDMI, so that'd be good for live streaming, which the SL3 had also. And then we'd have, you know, access to Canon's Maserati style, just, you know, best of the best lens that they ever made, which the lenses suggested that they should be coming out with the R5. When the Canon EOS R dropped, everybody was looking for like the wow factor we're getting with the R5, which I'm about to jump into. We expected, yeah, I can see y'all comments, Ryan. I'm just trying to run through these real quick. So I can jump into all of this. So, but we'll go back through. I always hit the comments, so I assure you, I'm not forgetting y'all. But it's because otherwise it takes forever to get through all of this stuff. So it's like it had clean HDMI, good for live streaming, cool. It's like the Maserati style lenses that honestly put almost anybody else's camera lenses to shame, made it amazing. Like, it's just like, how are you making these silly cameras that have almost no internal features, but you're also making glass that should fit? Like, we're like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, you make the glass first and give stupid cameras that don't even justify putting it on there. It's just like your mama would always say, getting or going to sleep, or black mamas anyway. It's like, you don't never want to go to bed with clean sheets on and a dirty body, you know, so go take a bath. So it's just that whole thing is just like, you happen into, you know, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 thread count sheets with, you know, you just had mud on your feet or something. So that kind of a thing. A lightweight camera, flip out screen, touch screen, all that, full frame. Had all of the things, but this one also had some dumb ones, and this is the second to the last one. And our very next one is going to be the R5 specs. But before I get to the R5 specs, I'm going to run through the comments. And so the Canon RP had some stupid things with it as well. It had 4K, still had a crop. It was a 1.7 times crop in 4K. So full frame is not supposed to have any crop. It's just supposed to be like, if a 35 millimeter lens is put on the A60 400 or the M50, for example, that 35 millimeter focal length now becomes something like, 56 millimeters or something or another. When you put that 35 millimeter lens on a full frame camera like the RP, it's just supposed to be 35. It doesn't change. Well, when you go to 4K video on the RP, you now had a 1.7 times crop. You also had no autofocus in 4K video. You also had no 1080p, 24 frames per second originally when it came out. And then when you put anything like a 10 to 18 lens that everybody talks about for vlogging, which is the lightweight camera, is full frame, this should have been the vlogger's ideal camera. Should have been, but it's not, and it wasn't. And the reason why is because you would put that, let's say that 1080p, not 1080p, Lord, the 10 to 18 millimeter, apparently my English has stopped working. When you would put that vlogger's lens, that Canon vlogger's lens, the 10 to 18 millimeter lens on this camera, now all of a sudden 1080p didn't work. I don't know why. It's just something that they did. So this is why I say Canon would make dumb things. All of this stuff is fixable with software or updated with firmware updates. But at the same time, they didn't. They wouldn't. And it was ridiculous. So you had no slow motion video capabilities. And at the time, there was no budget friendly lenses. So it's like, why am I going to spend $1,000 on a camera, but then I need to spend $2,000 on a lens? And it's like I'm missing things out of it. It didn't make sense. And so when you look at like this progression of, again, could be great cameras, could be great vlogging cameras, could be great video-esque, cameras and things like that for people. Again, like right now, how many more people would have had Canon cameras versus now Sony, or they're looking elsewhere? Even for, it's just like, even for some of you guys that message me on Instagram and stuff, it's just like everybody, because people hear me talk about Canon, they assume I still shoot with a Canon. I don't. I haven't used the M50 in over a year, and I'm very honest and open about what I'm using and why and stuff like that. And so, but I teach on that camera because for my audience, that's more or less some of the, it's either A6400, M50, that's a good camera for my audience. For me and my work, for my business, I need sometimes more, right? I want more, I want different things. And so that changes. So let me run back up through the comments. Again, if you guys have any specific tech questions or things more specific, different than the topic, I'll probably get to that and do more of a Q&A session towards the end. After we hit this R5 stuff, I just want to make sure at the front of the stream to maintain the integrity for the replay value for those that watch this later. It's not a bunch of Q&A at the beginning and then so I want to keep the main content towards the front of the stream, and then at the end I can hop into specific Q&A and stuff like that, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. So let's see here. I left off. Let's see here. Adon V, what's up? Good to see you. He said, I am here. Well, glad that you're here, brother. All right. So, Doc Rock is saying focus peaking is clutch for us. Be speckled, folks. Yeah, that's another thing. It's like these screens, no matter how good they are or how big they are or whatever, even with the monitor, it's like if you're manually focusing and you want a shallow depth of field or whatever, like what am I at right now? I think I'm at f2.5 on this one. I could get the background even blurrier, but at the same time, I'm also minimizing the distance for if I move forward or backwards, if the camera's having to constantly refocus on me, and autofocus is on my Sony camera. But if I manually focus like I had to do when I was doing the HDMI versus USB, that was so annoying as hell. Like just trying to, again, maintain the exact same look, the exact same, but making sure that I know the distance to move forwards or backwards so that I don't miss. Well, focus peaking would let me focus on this part of the microphone from here to the chair. So I know if I got colored dots on the mic and colored dots on the chair, I know those things. That's my range of what's in focus. Without peaking, you got to zoom in and go in through your magnification and try to eyeball it to see. And so that does suck. So that's that. So Ryan, I see your question. I'll come back to that towards the end for like specific Q&A stuff, but I promise I will answer. I always do. And so Alex is saying, just watch the R5 is going to have a 10-minute recording limit in 8K. I wouldn't doubt if it is a limit on there because they haven't just yet. So let's see here. So I see y'all talking in there, which is cool. Appreciate that. And then Alex which Alex does video production work. He says 10-bit is better for folks who actually color grade footage. A lot of people use Canon so they don't have to color grade, which is true because they generally look good. Canon cameras generally look really well straight out of the camera. You don't have to do a lot of color grading. If you want to dive more into color grading, and that's another thing, Sony has, like, you'll hear picture profile 1, picture profile 2, depending on how in depth you go when it comes to, videos, and you're trying to research and this, that, or whatever to see what do you want as far as the features in your camera or what have you, and all of that. So Let's see here. Adam's saying I wouldn't be surprised if the tariffs, which is why it's a 30-minute recording limit, or was, he said those tariffs have expired on the M50. They just want you to purchase more expensive cameras. It's just a software update. Yes, this is very true, because what doesn't get talked about a lot is how many updates Fuji does. And this is why I was saying, like, when you look at that video that I did and I answered in depth what my thought process was of when I switch or I'm preparing or I'm looking at a new camera, for me, what are all of the things that I look at? When I look at brands, the best brand when it comes to not cutting their people off, number one is Fuji. Fuji does that exceptionally well, because you look at a camera like the Fuji X-T1, everything that the X-T2 and then when the X-T3 started to come out, everything that they could now back and add to those cameras, they added with no delay. It just was like, oh, here's a new update. They just gave it to them. They didn't have to fight for it. They were constant. That's why people that love Fuji are diehard Fuji fans, because they don't restrict them. There's no reason. Like, it's literally, especially like if people like you or I, people that are kind of techie or whatever, that would, let's say you build software, you're into that, you could, do coding or what have you. It doesn't take much to get into a camera, to look into it. That's why you had like tools like Magic Lantern that people would sacrifice, and risk their cameras and the warranties and stuff to get in the camera, run that software so that they could use it. I had the Canon M, and I know Joshua Ververs is in there in the chat. He's used it as well, where you run that Magic Lantern, and all of a sudden there are things that was on probably some cinema line type cameras that you could add to Canon's very first mirrorless camera. So it's not a lack of the camera can't do it. It's just a matter of they won't add it. So there's no reason why now Canon literally could say, for the SL2, the SL3, the M50, the M6, the M6 Mark II, we're going to unlock unlimited recording. So even if you want to keep your camera, you want to keep buying lenses, you want to stay with us, we'll at least unlock unlimited recording. You know what? Let's go ahead and turn off all those other factors in there when it comes to external recording. We'll turn the autofocus on for you, and we'll make sure it's clean HDMI out, so you don't have to worry about that. They literally could do that if they want to, because you know why? Other brands do it all the time. And when you're adding in things that require more, it's just like there's really no reason. So I'm going to jump into this last point, and then I'm going to hop through the comments here. So last thing here, let's jump into what the hell is going on with this R5, because now you've heard me talk about all of the dumb decisions literally Canon has made over the past couple years, from 2017 era-ish up to, let's call it, end of 2019 and some of 2020 for whatever would have come out, but let's just call it 17 through 19, so at least a 2 to 3 year span. None of this is anything of what they've ever done. So let's talk about what the hell is going on. So 8K. Now, if you notice, not now one of them cameras I mentioned before had 1080p, 120 frames per second at least. Not now one of them. Okay? Not now one of them in my best Southern voice. Not now one of them had 4K, 24, 30, or even 60 frames per second with autofocus, with audio, without a crop, and all the rest. It didn't exist. So to have them announce 8K raw internal video recording up to 30 frames per second is completely unprecedented. Not now, another camera brand has done this. So you have 8K video, which is 4K times just doubled, okay? But raw is everything. When you think about, like, if you have done any kind of research for video, you probably came across Jared Poland of FroKnowsPhoto.com and he has like the curly kind of fro or afro or what have you. He always talks about, oh, I shoot raw. He always has the I shoot raw t-shirts, and you should shoot raw over JPEG and blah blah blah. The reason why is because even if you get your exposure wrong, you get the coloring wrong that you wanted or something like that, you can literally go through with a raw file and change all of that as if you had done it right in the camera. Whereas JPEG is kind of locked in, and if you start messing with that image too much, it falls apart. Well, imagine us having all of these years of variation of a JPEG like video. And with picture profiles, it gives you somewhat of a little bit more room to work with. And with the just creativity of entrepreneurs and videographers and cinematographers everywhere, and especially we can't definitely leave out photographers that have done amazing things for the video world. We've been able to, as a whole, as a group, been able to do a lot of creative things color wise with what we've been given. But now you have raw that basically says if your exposure is wrong, like I talked about having like a white blotch, like literally your skin is white because you're overexposed, or things that are wrong in the video can now be fixed. Even if you shot it wrong, it's not screwed up anymore. Before, and Alex can probably tell you, you mess up a video, you mess up a clip, you just need to re-record it. And you really got to decide, is this re-recording worth doing? Especially, that's why it's like, especially with video work, it's like you always want to make sure you get it right in the camera because you really don't have much room for error. So the fact that AK RAW is a thing and Canon is doing it, I would have put my money on Sony. I would have put my money on Blackmagic, the camera company, because they at least have like 6K. I would have put my money on Panasonic. I never would have guessed Canon to do something like this. So this is completely like kick butt Canon move. This by itself could have been enough to make everybody else run for the hills, like literally. But that's not all. We're going into ShamWow version, and that's not all, folks. 8K internal video recording up to 30 frames per second at 422 10-bit Canon log H.265. What is happening? What are y'all doing? Somebody got fired. I am convinced. You can't tell me somebody didn't get fired, because this ain't the same group, or at least it has hit their pocketbook heavy enough to make this, again, unprecedented. 8K, we already talked about that, but internal recording into the camera, unheard of. Now, the fact that it is everything of what we talked about, the color space of why people want 422 10-bit, that's also internal. Furthermore, you get that internal Canon log, so that flat picture profile that lets you grade even more that image like you would want to. Usually what you would see is H.264. Now we're getting into H.265. You're even starting to see that on like GoPros and stuff. But it's just like we're starting to see things that is just like ridiculous. We even get that in the HDR mode, which is insane. We go down to 4K video. We're also getting that internally recorded up to 120 frames per second. Now, just a few minutes ago, I was talking about how all the 4K versions in every Canon camera is somehow, some kind of a way jacked, even just because it has a crop. Now, all of a sudden, we get 4K internal recording up to 120 frames per second. This goes beyond any of what anybody was really asking for. This is one of those, like, I would wish a camera would come out with it. Maybe don't use it that much, but even still, it's just like, what the hell? So now, now we're seeing that, it's like, again, 422 10-bit with Canon log, all of this still internal. And it's just like, what is going on here? You can still do 4K 60, but it has to be external, like with the Atomos Ninja recorder or something. I don't know why that is, but again, that's kind of like what's up with that? Now, all of this, as I'll just throw this up here just because Alex is hating. He said it's a unicorn. Basically, none of these things will come to fruition, but because he's saying that, I'm just saying, like, for that, like 4K 60 external, should be easier for a camera in general to process over 4K 120. So I'm wondering, why does that have to be external? So it's kind of like an asterisk next to that, and like a curious kind of a thing. Now, there is no crop, and Canon knows that like nobody really has faith in Canon anymore, because it's been this whole, we'll give you this, but we won't give you that kind of a thing, which again, all of the reasons I talked about before of why they sucked. They made a point of saying there is no crop in 4K, there is no crop in 8K at all. You will get the full width of the sensor when you're doing 8K RAW. Again, all of this stuff is like too good to be true, and still unbelievable. Canon has been leaking and releasing stuff to now they went ahead and released it since, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have these events that we could go to, or these events that we could expect announcement to be made. So the brands are just having to release it. So now they're just like, no, there's no crop in 4K or 8K. And everybody is still like, yeah, right. Y'all don't treat us well. You're the boyfriend that says, why do you make me hit you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's a sore spot for some people. I get it. But that's that whole kind of a thing. It's just like, you don't treat us well. Then you come back in, like if y'all ever saw What's Love Got to Do with It, with Tina and Ike and Tina Turner. It's just like he come in with some flower roses, you know, touches his slick back and going out the door. It's like, bro, you just busted her whole face. What do you mean? The roses ain't going to cut it. So this feels like the roses on the busted lip for years. It's not going to convert well. You know what I'm saying? As far as the trust. So it's kind of that kind of a thing. You will get dual pixel autofocus, so they say, in 4K and 8K modes. Again, unheard of. Canon log is available in 4K and 8K. And it says a Canon first, the R5 will feature a 5-axis in-body image stabilization, which will work in addition to the image stabilization inside of the lenses, and it will work with the older EF lenses and the newer RF lenses, and it will be dual card slots. It will be CF Express, which is a more expensive card, but that is something that I know a lot of photo people care about. But when you're getting into like these higher frame rates and stuff like that, these, like, this camera is heavy, like process intensively heavy. And it also has an SD UHS-2 card slot as well. So that's the, you have the SD cards, and then you have the, which are UHS-1, which you'll generally, UHS-2 works a little bit better. So again, you're able to get more out of that card. So you have very strong, not just dual card slots, but very strong card slots to handle the media. This is why I said originally that when the M50 video kit that I got, I bought mine used from B&H, and it was for $500 for the whole thing. So it was no point in trying to just find a camera and only getting that. But the card that came with that kit sucked, because when you would try to record video, the card was too low, as well as its ability to process the media. It was just too low in being able to do what even the M50 was outputting. So that's why I would say, like, that card is no good. The microphone honestly was trash, especially coming from Rode. But unheard of things when it comes to Canon. Like, all of this stuff, like Alex is talking about, it is a unicorn, because it's nobody else out there doing this kind of stuff. Unfreaking heard of and unbelievable, literally to the point most people still don't believe it. I'm having some issues even believing it still to this day. It just kind of feels like, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. Doc Rock is saying Canon has the best glass in the game. On Sony broadcast camera, you'll find Sony glass. In reds used to shoot movies, you'll find Canon glass. Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like when you look at the cinema line and level of things in the world, you see like pretty good stuff, and you know, for what's out there. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, with a camera that doesn't have much in it, like the RP and the R, the glass sometimes can help. So like I said, the M50, it's not that strong of a camera by itself, but you add better glass to it, you get better quality out of it. You add worse glass to it, you're just going to see what you see. So that's that. So Ryan, I want to hit your question. Let's see here. Let me scroll back up. Or did one of you guys already hit on that? So Yeah, so I see y'all talking in there in the chat or what have you, but that's cool. Okay, so Ryan, you were asking originally, do I think Streamlabs OBS is better than Ecamm Live? No, and that's just my opinion. Because the thing is, Streamlabs OBS is still cool, but at the same time, it's still a version of OBS. I personally don't recommend OBS because as entrepreneurs, you're already a professional at what you're doing. You don't necessarily need to be some video geek like me, like this is my business, this is what I do full time. So I'm all into this world, as you can see, memorizing stuff from 2016 video wise. But it's like you don't need to get all that into it. You just need good pro level quality videos and streams so that you can share the message of your business. When you start adding in things that require a learning curve, and those learning curves start getting deep, too many learning curves start making a circle. I think OBS is a big hook and a big learning curve, and it's not worth it. It's just worth it to go ahead. And that's where I draw the line when it comes to free something. If something's free or budget friendly and it's worth investing in, then it's worth investing in. If it's making your process more efficient, if it's duplicatable, something that you could teach an employee, a VA, or somebody else to run, or even if you had some kind of a, excuse me, even if you had some kind of a student, coming in to do some kind of work for you, it would be worth the time to get something that's an efficient tool like an Ecamm, where you can create a template, create a systematic template of doing work and getting things done versus trying to build all of that stuff into OBS. So my answer for that is no, even though Streamlabs OBS makes that a bit easier. So it's good. There's nothing really wrong with it, but at the same time, I wouldn't use it. So, and I don't recommend it. So, but it's an option. If you like it, that's the thing. Even beyond my recommendations, if y'all like something, get it. I'm not the end all be all. It's still your choice and your decision. So, Ryan, first of all, isn't that quite the stellar profile picture? That looks good right there. So kudos to you. That's a good picture. He said, I am on a Mac using Ecamm Live, but I can't seem to make a custom transition like when changing scenes. I want an animated wipe to the next scene. It depends. Again, with what you're trying to do, the most transitions and things like that, when it comes to what Ecamm offers, they do allow you a couple different kinds. But if you're literally trying to build it in the same way that you would one of your regular videos, it's like if you want a specific customized look or something like that, you literally want to build this out like the same way I make my videos. I have my fast forward, again, to help you move your vision forward using video. So my fast forward symbol for YouTube, and my transitions, that fast forward thing, if I want to add that in, so when I transition from, let's say, the PDF to me, I want those fast forward symbols to come across. Yeah, I need to build into something. So it's like at some point, again, yeah, you can get free, and that is a very customizable thing. But again, Ecamm Live's goal and what it's good at is efficiency and doing a lot of great things really well. But if it doesn't meet what you're trying to do, you're going to have to go that route of learning it, getting OBS dialed in and stuff like that, and figuring that out. Otherwise, it's just like, I don't think for some of that stuff is just like, yeah, we want it, but just focus on getting, especially if you're new to live streaming, get the basics right first, and then, worry about the other stuff, and then know when it's kind of like getting excessive, honestly. So that's just my honest opinion. All right, so running. All right, so I'm going down to the comments. Okay, so you got another one, Ryan, and I will get to the rest of them. I do see some newer ones down at the bottom. So it says, I would like to start a YouTube channel, but my company is called Explanatory Videos. If I name my channel that, it's too general of a word. Any ideas? And you're asking, like, maybe should it be explanatory TV or explanatory marketing? Here's the thing. Nobody knows or even cares about your name until they have a reason to care about your brand. And the thing with that, like, Entree Woman TV is a made up word. it means nothing to anybody other than to me until I start building that brand to make it mean something, recognize something, stand for something. So when somebody else that knows me or has come to know me through my content, they think of Entree Woman TV or they think of my channel, they like, oh man, I can't, it's like it's a good response. Just like Think Media with Sean Cannell, my brother from another mother. You think about Think Media. Think Media, the title or the name, it doesn't mean anything until Sean made it mean something. And then that brand develops over years, because he could have called it Sean Cannell. It could have just been the Sean Cannell channel, but it's not. He wanted to build a brand called Think Media. He's not, his logo isn't, or his not his logo, but his phrase is not helping you think better about media. It's not a news channel. So it has nothing to do with that kind of a thing, but it's helping you move further, faster with online video. So it's just like that kind of a thing. But the name in essence doesn't mean anything until you make it mean something. McDonald's meant nothing until it means anything. So the idea of what you should call your name, your channel name, it's really up to you, unless you want your channel name to be something relevant to the person that you're serving. If it's not, then it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, if you have a how-to channel, or if it's something about gardening, and I'm, just like I could call my channel the basics of gardening. Somebody that's searching for that phrase in YouTube around basics of gardening or whatever, then, you could call it that. And the person that's searching for it will find it. But then too, your video content should be serving them, not the channel name. It really doesn't matter, so you could call it explanatory videos with Ryan, if that's what you want. Like, but what are you explaining? I don't know. That, so again, when you hear Entree Woman TV in general, you wouldn't know what that means either. But you will know based on the content that you see, not because of the name. So that's just kind of like an artificial thing. It really doesn't matter until you make it matter. So let's see here. Doc Rock is saying, don't fall in love with brands. Use your tools to the max and get new tools as needed. Heard that. So I said I was going to mention about what this means for us as entrepreneurs, as creators, content creators, and things like that. What does the R5 mean for us? Again, we look at how amazing the specs are for this camera. And this camera, honestly, will be no less than $3,500. And probably I would raise the ceiling on that to even $5,000 or $6,000, truthfully, because you have cameras out there like the Fuji GFX, whatever or another, that's a medium format, which is just stupid big. It's just huge. If you ever get a chance to see a medium format camera in person, just pick one. It's silly big, but it's amazing. It's like holding a little TV, seriously. And so when you think about that, like, look at all this stuff on the screen. What are you going to do with that? None of us need this camera, but a lot of us want it, me included. But at the same time, you look at all those specs and those features for that camera. What does that mean for us? Here's why I get excited when amazing cameras like the R5 come out, because it means that all of the other cameras, like the new SL3, the new Canon RP, the new Canon R variations of cameras, this next version of them, even the M50, should adopt some of these features. Now, none of these cameras probably gonna have not 4K, but 8K, but they should at least now start getting 4K right. So for those of you that want a 4K capable camera that maybe can live stream, that is up there at the level of the Panasonic GH6, even potentially for some of their higher end, like maybe let's say the R6 or something like that kind of a camera, because that's another one that's coming out that should be something that's interesting as well. Those should start having at least 4K 30, 4K 60, dual pixel autofocus, no crop on there, headphone jack, audio, audio microphone input jack should start, it should start fixing all of the cameras underneath it. This is the thing that concerns me when it comes to Canon. Nobody knows which direction that they're going to go. Have they turned over a new leaf? Like I said, is this the return to the Mac kind of a thing? Like, it's like, we are back. We're sorry. We thought we knew what we were doing. We didn't. We screwed up. We apologize. Here's an amazing camera that shows you our promise and our commitment to you, that we're moving forward in a way like we've never done before. Or here's the one camera to shut y'all up, and now we're going to make more SL3, more Canon RPs, and more Canon Rs, with maybe one more thing being new. And that's what I'm concerned about. The cameras that are coming after and under these cameras, like, and I'm saying under as far as like the sub $2,000 camera. So if this is a $3,500 to $6,000 camera, amazing. This is the top of the chain, the food chain. What is going to be underneath there? Do everybody have to get the R5 if they want good stuff from Canon video wise? Or is it just like what's the deal? This is the questionable thing. I think it gives us some insight into because there are rumors about Canon eventually coming out with an updated version to the Canon M50. So the Canon M50 Mark II should have IBIS. So you should start seeing some competition, and hopefully some things even better than what Sony is doing, better than what Fuji is doing. So the Fuji X-T3 and the Fuji X-T4, the Sony A6400 and the Sony A6600, Canon should be making cameras that compete with those. So that's why I think this camera is going to be an amazing decision for any of us, because it's like, if you want an amazing vlogging camera, an amazing camera for live streaming, an amazing camera, and you don't want to leave Canon, or you want to switch back to Canon or wherever you're coming from, then it's just like, this should make possible the ability to get a 4K capable camera that you could run your business from, that you could start making videos for your channel. You could start doing a lot of things well, but you wouldn't have to like switch. And it's just like, it makes it easy. Like Alex talked about earlier, it's just like, you wouldn't need to color grade it. It looks great already by itself. And even if you wanted to, you start getting access to other things as well. Drew, good to see you. Saw your comment in there. Good to see you, Drew. Glad that you're here. So, Joshua Burrows, the JoshuaBurrowersOfficial.com. That's not his actual website, but it says, what is that old saying? The devil is in the details. I'm wondering what they aren't telling us, and how sad is it that Canon has me expecting the other shoe to drop, because Canon is the Ike Turner. Okay, we've been Tina all of these years. Okay, we moved on like Tina Turner moved on now, an amazing life. Okay, living her best life. And what does Ike do at the end of the movie? Show up with that greasy smile, just like, oh, you think you gonna leave me? You ain't gonna leave me. So this is like, that's the bad thing. Everybody that's anybody that has, even if they have Canon camera, they bought the R, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that, they're still like, yeah, but y'all don't really treat us well. You don't really, you know what I'm saying? You never like love us. You never treat us well. I desperately desire for Canon to make this the best camera we will see for the next 10 years. I desperately desire this, because we need competition like what they did with the 5D Mark II. We need that. If they don't do that, it's just more of a disappointing camera with a lot of possibilities. And the fact that like there's no ventilation, everybody and their mama that's made a camera with like 6K in it, which is Panasonic and Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K, and get y'all naming scheme together, because good Lord, that's a long name. It's like they have 6K, but they need like cooling vents. The battery gets eaten up really quickly. It's a bunch of things, but something that, because it has like USB-C with the, like we talked about the Blackmagic camera, you can take, where's my external hard drives? Let's pull this one. You can take an external hard drive like this is my Samsung T5 external hard drive, and you don't need like SD cards, stop being a problem, and you could just plug in one of these and you're good to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that, let's say the CF Express cards cost a lot and all of that, whoops, glad those are shotproof. So you get the Samsung at SSD, you plug that in via USB-C, and you don't have to worry about buying a freaking plethora of SD cards. You now have reliable storage options. Okay, well, you know what I'm saying? It's like you have this amazing camera, and it's like something like that where it's a ridiculous amount of data. You can get one of those things that's like 2 terabytes. So if I got 2 terabytes for storage for a video, I could do a 4K, 8K slow motion shoot, like best of the best. Do the like think outside of the box, and not just entrepreneurs, but like churches. Like everybody could go to a next level. They have the possibility. So it's not just like us that are buying things, but like even I recommend cameras to churches, and like cameras are trying to buy a one-stop deal. They would not have to buy another camera for the next 10 or 15 years if they do this right. That's what I'm saying. Like, stop thinking, oh, just you YouTubers. We're on YouTube for our business, not because we're just YouTubers. We're not kids. Like nobody I even know, not even nobody in my community are like kids, like entrepreneurs, people that have businesses, side hustles, and things like that. And so like, and even beyond that, we have access to, and because we know something about video, like Joshua Verwer's, recommending that to other churches. So think of how many cameras I've sold with my Amazon affiliate. You know what I'm saying? Or how many accessories back of that. So we're adding value to the marketplace when you have this camera industry that's dying. So stop screwing us over. You know what I'm saying? So that's my whole ploy with this thing. So they have the opportunity to do something unlike anybody else has. So Drew is saying, why are they including a 12 frames per second mechanical shutter? It sounds like it's a real mechanical shutter as opposed to just the sound. They are saying they don't want this to just be a video or a photo camera. Like, they want to create the ultimate hybrid camera. So they want to make something that photographers, which there hasn't been any limitations from the photography side of things forever. That's why I'm like kind of hard on photographers. Like, shut up and stop talking about people that want video stuff, because this is the dying market. That the more people that get interested in video, the more people that can start to boost and add value to the economy. Even right now, camera sales is what's driving the economy in one segment, in one area, just like medical and stuff like that. So it's like, shut up. We need people in this space so that we can continue, so these companies don't die, people don't lose jobs, and that we can start to fuel the economy. YouTube gets, you know what I'm saying, some of that. We get money back of that. You got companies like Epidemic Sound. Like, it's a cycle of production and productivity and just like prosperity even. And so they're saying they want this to be like the ultimate hybrid type of a camera. Well, with it having a good 12 frames per second mechanical shutter in there, it should be fine. You know what I'm saying? It should be also making photographers happy, but photographers complain about silly stuff like where a button is placed. So AM1 is saying, good to see you. I'm glad that you are here, saying that 4K 120 is a game changer. Yes, it is. That nobody, like Alex, you can let me know and catch me up in the chat, is like, who does that? You need cinema line cameras to get 4K 120 frames per second. I have my DJI Osmo Pocket, which Fayutech is a brand I really want to start exploring more. But so you got like this Osmo Pocket, which I freaking love this thing so much. I had did the one video talking about it, like I wasn't sure. Shortly after that, I returned it, and then I went and bought it back like within a week, because I'm like, oh, this is a company that updates firmware. So I'm like, it's not like buying a regular camera. They will improve it, and they have. And so this camera, I bring this up because it has 4K 60. When y'all seen 4K 60 on this channel? I just like having options though. But if I'm out and I'm vlogging, depending on as a need arise, or if I get a creative idea, then yeah, I can flip over and I can use it real quick. And so the video may still come out in 1080p or 4K. It won't come out obviously in 4K 60, but it's an option. So 4K 120 frames per second on bigger cameras, prosumer level cameras, is not something that you see all the time. So real quick, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying what you're seeing, liking, and hearing. And also, I'm plugging myself right now. I have a talk coming up with Ecamm Live where I'm going through the 3 live streaming secrets to faster YouTube channel growth. Never done any training like this before, where I've given so much away in any of my old paid stuff or any of the new content that I'm doing. So you can go to, and let me pull this up here. You go to Diana Gladney, Okay, I'm going to type this in. I want you all to go there and register for my talk. It's dianagladney.com. No, it's diana.link. I know my own links. Diana.link/leap. And you too can go. This is why they don't let me do commercials. You go to diana.link/leap to sign up and register for my free talk. And if you go there, like you can go to diana.link/ecamlive, and you can use that coupon code there, and it'll give you 30% off of the annual plan or what have you. So yeah. All right, so back to the chat. We'll be right back after these messages. So Joshua Burr was saying a unicorn. I got a feeling once we find out more, this unicorn is going to look more like a donkey with a construction zip tied. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Joshua, I'm not pulling your comments back up no more. Oh, okay. Oh, what is wrong with you? I'm done. We not Joshua Burris. We gonna have to ban you from pulling up on the screen. Okay. Whew. So Adam's Exploits is saying, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." That's kind of how it's been. A lot of fooling. Again, you gotta think like over the years, like that they have released cameras. It's been like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot now. It's like over the. Okay. I'm gonna get it together. I promise y'all. So it's like over the years of Canon releasing stuff, it's just been like, it's been so ridiculous. So J.A. Stevenson, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Saying, yo, is this pre-recorded or live, or pre-recorded live or live? No, I'm actually like in my seat right now. Like this is not pre-recorded and all the jazz. So Jen Verwers, good to see you. So to the man that just had me in a laughing fit, this is his wonderful, beautiful. I was just thinking about you the other day, Jen. I miss you so much. I'm gonna have to get back out to Iowa. So good to see you, Jen. Glad that you are here. And so I'm trying to get these comments caught up, and then we probably see what else questions y'all have. So if the R5 doesn't deliver, everybody gonna wash their hands of Canon. That is the hard thing. Again, it's like if it's like y'all have the one shot to get back into everybody's heart, and by golly, it's like this is the end of the movie. It's been a nightmare. We're waiting for the police sirens to come. It's like we're waiting to see what's what. And by golly, I tell you, if y'all screw this up, just I don't even know. It's just like I like I said, I hope that they don't screw it up, because you have cameras like the M50 Mark II, even like so I didn't even talk about some of the other cameras that they had, like the that airplane loud, the M6 Mark II that came out, or the G7X Mark III. I never even talked about those cameras on the channel because those were absolutely dumb cameras. The M6 Mark II is okay, but the G7X Mark III was trash in a bag. How are y'all gonna, first of all, and they have, and that's the thing, is like they have the best potential ever for like any brand ever. The G7X Mark III, the little point and shoot camera, that like the G7X Mark II was everybody's vlogger's dream camera, for at the time, and it's just something that everybody has enjoyed over the years. The G7X Mark III had something no other camera had, and that was the ability to go live from the camera. No cables, no cords, no nothing. Go live to YouTube from the camera. Nobody talks about that because that camera has no autofocus. Like, when I say no autofocus, like Panasonic, I trust Panasonic's autofocus before I trust Canon's autofocus when it comes to their it just gets depressing. And it's just like, why do y'all do dumb stuff like that? It's just like, you have the most amazing things, it just put them, you don't have to put everything in one camera, which is baffling again why they would do the R5 like they're doing it. But it's just like, my gosh, it's just like, it's insane. Absolutely insane. So Adam's Exploits, I see you next. I'm gonna hop to you next, brother. Saying, man, this is crazy quality. I don't know how you are getting that live, because the same video rules apply when it comes to live streaming. Live streaming it doesn't mean that it has to look, awful. Like, I could go to my web camera and this is what the web camera would look like, this angle, but it's like, if this is all you ever saw, this is all you ever would know. But the same video rules apply when it comes to lenses, when it comes to lighting, when it comes to coloring. Even like with Ecamm Live, one of the cool things, you could add a LUT, so you could color grade. You could have flat profile images coming out of your camera, and I could add my LUT that I use like for YouTube or whatever, and add that LUT on to the live stream. But I like the way standard looks, honestly, on the Sonys. So, but yeah. So, Adam, you saying, can I address the question about the M50? So let me scroll back up and see what that question was. It's so many comments. This is this is a bit. Shoot. All right, Alex, give me a moment. I think I'm gonna find it. Okay, I see the one about the tariffs. Okay. All right, so you're asking about having troubles with the M50, with the cam link, plus you have lag even when you're using Sparkle Cam, and you're saying that the Elgato cam link isn't recognizing the M50. It is plugged into the USB 3.0, and I've tried connecting, disconnecting, etc. So if you're trying to connect to the M50 using the cam link, the thing with the cam links is that those still have a minimum processing requirements for it. So if your computer meets those requirements, you're plugging it into the USB 3.0 connection port or whatever, but you're still having issues with that, as far as the 4K, you're still getting lag. Sparkle Cam is kind of like, I don't know. You can ask Joshua Verwers in the chat, honestly. He's used Sparkle Cam more than I ever have, other than I just do it for like tutorials real quick. But again, I'm not a PC person, but Joshua has used Sparkle Cam extensively. So you can ask him about any tips he may have with it. But it's like, the thing is like, and then lag also, it's like, anything could make you lag. You know what I'm saying? If you are running a PC, there should be even something that lets you know what resources are being used on your computer. Are you maxing your RAM? If you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you're at like 14, 15, you're almost hitting that ceiling. You're overworking your computer for all the things that you have going on it. So you have to do some kind of dissecting with it. Again, customer service being what they are right now, which is kind of non-existent for most companies, then I don't know if Elgato can, like, they'll ask you, if you're having problems using their tool, they'll ask you to send them a diagnostic. But the thing is, when you send that diagnostic, I don't know now how long it takes to get a reply. Before, it may just be like 48 hours or, 3 or 4 days sometimes. So I honestly don't know. But it's just like, you got to go back through that chain. When do you start seeing a problem? If you just connect the Canon M50 and not Ecamm, but the cam link, and let's say no programs running or nothing else, go live natively to Facebook, go live natively to YouTube, are you seeing that same lag? Because screw everything else, just that connection by itself, there's a problem there. So if that's the case, then you can stop right there. Switch it out. Use just Sparkle Cam and the camera and do the same thing. Go straight to Facebook, go straight to YouTube or wherever you're going live at, and see what is it doing. Another thing that you can do is that you can right click on, like, after you do a test live stream, for example, you can right click on that video and click stats for nerds, and that'll tell you how many frames are dropping in that video. It'll also tell you like the resolution for it, and it'll give you some other details and stuff like that. So somebody that may be a little bit more nerdy when it comes to that kind of stuff could potentially help you with that. And you're saying I was able to delay the video by 1,000 or whatever the measurement is in sparkle cam, but the video is still not synced with the sound. Again, it's like I'm not a sparkle cam expert by any means whatsoever, so I honestly could not tell you. And you're saying using the Blue Yeti microphone. As far as I know, USB microphones really don't have any kind of like lag issues or anything like that I'm familiar with. So the thing is that, again, it's like go through the chain, and like you really got to do some testing now for your system and for your setup and things like that. So, all right, let me scroll all the way to the bottom and see where I am leaving at. And I appreciate that y'all are having conversations in the chat. I am so glad to have y'all here. And I'm seeing this Joshua Verwer's comment again, so I am not. I'm not. We are so done with Joshua Verwer's, not bringing him on. He was supposed to be I guess. It's just like, no. So, Focus Bread 2020, good to see you. Glad that you're here. I love that Lion pick. Yeah. So what camera are you using at the moment? I am using my Sony A6400 with my 35 millimeter f1.8 Sony lens, the Elgato Cam Link that I'm hooked in to my computer, my Mac, and I'm using Ecamm Live. So that's my full setup. And then my microphone is the Samson Q2U USB microphone that I'm hooked in for USB. So that's what I'm doing there. And then Alex is answering my question earlier about only cinema cameras are doing 4K 120 frames per second. So again, it's definitely unheard of. There is that brand, like he's mentioning here, called Zcam, but it's literally just a box. It's really weird, weird kind of, it literally is just a little box, no screen. It's just like if you only had the sensor and enough to run the menus, then that's, like, I can't even think about this comment that Josh put in there. There's something wrong with you, man. And so, okay. And so, Michelle, good to see you, Michelle. Glad that you're here. So some OMG, your link said, did I get it wrong? Nope. Diana.link, DIANA.link /leap, LEAP. That's all it is. Diana.link /leap. You do need to probably put, I guess, depending on your browser, HTTPS or HTTPS : / or whatever the case is. She said, I tried 2 versions and it didn't work. Well, Michelle, get it together. I don't know what to tell you. No, I'll throw it in a link after the Thingy Baba, so that you all can have it if you want to check it out and stuff like that. I'll put it in the description details after the stream. So, Francis, you're saying I love the DJI Osmo Pocket. Got one, and it's good for walkarounds. It is. I really do enjoy it. I wish that they did something new. Like I said, I shared it on the community tab. Fade Tech, which is a gimbal company, they just created something of I don't want to say better, but they came out with their own version of it. But the Fimi Pocket or something like that, it's this Asian young lady, what's her name? Something Young 360, I think is her channel name. She's pretty cool. And she does drone videos and stuff like that, and she's covered the DJI Osmo Pocket extensively, and she got her hands on the Fimi Pocket, and they did a lot of things right. So I'm really excited about all the things that are going on there. Joshua Verwer's feeling bad about what he's doing. That's what that should be. He's feeling bad. He's apologizing. He said, I'm going there now. When is it? So my talk is April 30th, I think at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. But yeah, that's there. Again, I'll put the details in the description, and I'll share it again on the community tab here on YouTube. So Doc Roxanne, you think you broke? He did. I couldn't handle it. I could not hold it together. It said, yes, this is worth the price of admission. I think I win dark chocolate hour. Now you're really coming off the screen. If y'all don't know, I abhor dark chocolate. It is all about white chocolate, and you probably get more talk about white chocolate on my Instagram stories than you do any video tips. So that's that. So so Drew saying gotta go. All right, Drew, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate you. Good to see you. And I'm all of y'all that love dark chocolate, just find the baptismal pool and soak in it. Okay, you need to, it's just get it off of you. Get it off of you. And Doc Rock's talking about Canon saying, look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? So it's like that whole what is it, Eminem verse. It's just like that's Canon. They have one shot to get this right. And so Adam's saying, oh, okay, maybe I don't have enough. I have an i7, but only 12 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, so this is back to his earlier question. Every camera, everything that you're plugging in and running off of your computer, just because your computer can receive it and use it doesn't mean that it can run everything all at once. You got to know your computer's limitations. Everything has limitations. It's just about knowing what all can I do at once without it getting to the point to where it's just the computer is wheezing, it's falling apart, and something's going to fail. And so if you only have 12 gigabytes of RAM, between running all of these different things, looking at the minimum requirement for the software, and then if you run something like, we have Activity Monitor on Mac. I don't know what it would be on PC, but something that lets you know how much memory resources your computer is using at the time, then you can begin to see what all is going into the work that your computer is having to do. Because if you're maxing it and you're at like 10, then your computer is just like, look, I don't care what you open up on it, it's not happening. And so so Focus Bread adding in some tips there, saying hit Control Alt Delete so that you can take a look and see what's going on the back end of your PC. So those that want help with the PC, there you go. And he's saying that's why he was asking, because Sparkleham has terrible customer service. He'll try Elgato, yeah, and at least Elgato has a tool that you can use that they'll have you download so that they can actually see what's going on with all of that. So so we have HR Girl 411. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Wonderful, beautiful profile picture that you have there. Said I had the same problem with Sparkle Cam. Yeah, that's like, honestly, it's like the same reason why I had just bought a computer maybe in 2017, and at the time should have been enough to handle like some basic 1080p 120 frames per second, I think, for the time. Max maybe a little bit of 4K, but not for real. USB 3.0 ports, some USB-C ports, like, what I'm saying, it was pretty good for what it was. And it should have been, and it really wasn't. But then too, when I looked at just what live streaming tools were available, because I was already live streaming using my web camera, not the one on the Mac here, but like on my Logitech C920, which I still have and sometimes use to this day. I had that, and it's just like, what, there's not any good editing software. You have like Adobe Premiere Pro, which some people rave about. It's not something that suits me well. I don't like it. So I was like, I don't like that. I'm like, I really like Final Cut Pro, but I was like, dag, I'd have to switch to a Mac. And I was like, dag, Ecamm Live was $29. You could just buy it outright. It was $29 for the whole thing. Best of the best. All of what you're seeing now, minus like some of these recent things that they've released. Imagine like $29. And then a few months later, it went to $39. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, $39 for this? For everything that we were doing today. All of $39? And I'm just like, golly, I'm like, I can't deal with this PC stuff, because I'm looking at Sparkle Cam. I'm like, these programs suck. It's like, it's not anything. And as much as I enjoy StreamYard for like the help cast and stuff like that, and it's like, y'all let me know if you want another one of those as well. I'll be throwing a poll on the community tab also. But it's just like, all that stuff sucked. And I was just like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'd rather buy a Mac just so I could use those tools and get Ecamm Live and get Final Cut Pro 10 specifically. And it wound up being, I just really enjoyed the whole Mac thing, and I switched. But I originally just got it for to do Ecamm Live and for Final Cut Pro 10. And it wound up being one of the best decisions, for real. So, okay. So Michelle saying she got to go. Have a good night, Michelle. Hope you have a great evening. All right, so Focus Bread 2020 said, thank you for doing this and let us know what you're using. Oh, my pleasure. No problemo. So Doc Rock is saying he's using the same setup, except he has a 24 millimeter lens and a f1.8 Zeiss lens. So I am looking at the Tamron 20 millimeter lens. Tamron is another company that I'm very, very excited about for the things that they're doing lens wise. It's them and Sigma. The Sigma 16 is not one like this for me, for real, honestly. But the Tamron 20 millimeter lens is one I am looking at. So I'm curious about this. So Joshua Bird pouting about not being allowed. We'll put you back on the screen. Limited time only, like the McRib, okay? You mess up, you're going back in the vault like the Disney vault. Shoot. Alex saying most cinema cams are basically a box when you strip them down to the base unit. Yep. They look like more because you have attachments and a ton of crap on top of them. Yep, that's exactly it. Because it's like I honestly looked at buying a cinema camera, like just being completely honest, because it was not anybody really throwing a lot into a camera, and so it wound up being just like, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to go get a cinema camera, but like every new attachment, again, like you're looking at not just lenses. Like most cameras now, we're looking at prosumer level cameras, basic SD card. No, like you got a big hunk of a chunk on the back for a battery. Got this huge kind of a thing for SD cards. If you want a handle, that costs a couple $100. You want a monitor, that costs a couple $100. You want this, like, and I'm just looking like, God, it's gonna be a $10,000 purchase for an end all be all camera, if that's what you want to try. And a channel that I like, which is the Everyday Dad, and he talks about stuff like that. And he bought at one point like a Canon C100 and 200 or whatever to try it out. I'm just like, I ain't buying. If you can't get your regular stuff right, I definitely don't trust you for anything more than that, in my opinion. And then Alex is saying, I got an Osmo Pocket competitor on order from a Kickstarter, but their production got slowed by COVID-19. Gotcha. So, all right. Doc Rock, you're saying I have the Tamron, so Tamron 20 for astro shooting. It's amazing. I've never done astrophotography, but yeah, I ain't even gonna say it's something I would look into, because it's not. It's St. Louis, okay? If I'm going out at night, I got my 9mm only. That's just keeping it real. I am not out here in these streets like that. I use that as a joking phrase. I do not be out here in these streets. And so Henry is saying, I was thinking about maybe upgrading to an older MacBook Pro, maybe using it just for streaming. Currently have 4 gigabytes of RAM, maybe upgrade to 8, maybe 16 if possible. What are your thoughts? You might as well go at least, like, I wouldn't get anything less than 16 gigabytes of RAM as the base, because anything less than that is a waste of money at this point, because you can get used Macs and used Macs tend to hold up well. Don't get anything. It's literally a waste of money, and you still will need, and even if like the price is right for something that's like 8 gigs or whatever, don't do it. It's not worth it, because you're still buying something that keeps you pretty much at the same cap that you were just at. So I would still get an older MacBook Pro, but make sure it at least has 16 gigabytes of RAM, because that's the base benchmark that you want to start at. Anything less than that is a waste of money. Like I said, I don't even have enough for what I honestly need, and I make it work. But at the same time, it's like when I get my computer, it's just like it'll be, worthy of all of the work that I'm doing, and then carry me over. And even if you're just doing it for streaming, even if you're just using it for, Ecamm Live and be on the internet or whatever the case is, it's no point. If let's say they release anything more, they add some more stuff, start using more processing power, go ahead and have the ability to still add those things to your stream or add those things to your videos or whatever the case is. There's no point in buying something that already has a cap on it. So that's that. So I think I hit everybody's question just about, I think. But otherwise, I appreciate y'all having conversations in the chat and enjoying it yourselves there. However, that is where I'm going to leave it there, entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed what you saw, what you heard, if you liked it, make sure that you hit the like button. Other than that, I appreciate y'all time and sharing in that time with me. Hopefully you enjoyed today's stream. And we have new content coming to the channel constantly every single week to serve you and help you move your vision forward using video. But with that, my friends, live with passion, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.